Taking a look at the outings for both of these players so far, in terms of oh, sorry, my mistake, don't have those quite yet, but I was just going to talk about how the players have lined up against each other thus far, because it has been a big turnaround for both of our players. Posesi up at the top of Division A last season, and Kin also was in Division A last season, but he was right down at the bottom instead, which means being in a decent spot in Division B isn't even that far from what we saw from him last time.
That's true. But funnily enough, ending up at the bottom of Division A is worlds apart because you still have a chance of being relegated in the bracket with 5th and 6th Division B, whereas top of Division B still has a chance to make it to the playoffs. So with 2 weeks remaining, there is still a lot of switching around that could be seen, but this is an insta-full keep from Kin. Love to see it with the Questing Adventurer.
This game is going to be juicy. Both players have the goods, especially with Kin finding an Edwin that can come down as a, what, 8-8 on the next turn if he wants to, or he can even greed it out further.
Yeah. With the Cult Neophyte keep, it very much felt like he wanted to be greeding it out, but this exact hand from Posesi works around the Cult Neophyte this turn because he wasn't going to do anything on the Overload turn anyway. He already cashed in the hard mana. This worked out pretty decent for Posesi, I would say. It just is a matter of can he defend against the huge Edwin, and with 2 beasts rushing out next turn, possibly. Wait, but then there's still the Shadow Step. Ooh.
Exactly. The fact that he can't kill off the Neophyte this turn is just absolutely disastrous for him because it is not going to be slowing down anytime soon. It's a little bit awkward, I suppose, if I want to be a negative Nancy about Kin's hand, because he doesn't have any way to spend the mana after coining if he wants to go for Step the Neophyte and play out Edwin. And so does he ever hold off on it because he wants to deny the mana on turn 7 instead of turn 6?
Oh, I don't know. I could be caster visioning on this a little bit too hard, but it just seems like traditionally getting down at least 8-8 Edwin as soon as possible is the way to win here. Could even see the prep cashed in.
Yeah, I think
if you're doing this, you do go all in.
Exactly. You have to go one way or the other. Commit to it, as Kin does here. 10-10 right off the bat, and it's powerful. It's a very, very strong start indeed. But I'm not sure it's going to be quite enough to take the win here.
I mean, it's going to be close. We'll definitely connect face next turn. But you're right, that is not all of the damage out yet, and Posesi very likely will have a taunt generated from his guardian animals.
Crystal
Power, shoot the Neophyte. You never want to see that again.
Yeah, I guess you probably do that. I mean, you know, if there was another Shadow Step, it probably would have just come down on that turn. But it's just good anyway. Even ignoring the effect, it takes off some damage.
Yeah.
I mean, the one difference being, if you don't get exactly double runner, you do kind of want to damage the Edwin, right? So that you can actually clear it with Threshers or Teacher's Pets.
Yeah, and in the outcome of double Thresher, you actually want the Neophyte to live.
That's true.
So that you have 2 targets that aren't Edwin that damage the Edwin. I like definitely wouldn't have spotted this, but I also really like it from Posesi.
Very, very clever line indeed.
Now, Kin has tempo questing, I would assume.
I really don't know. I mean, you know with this line that they have the guardian animals in hand. There's no other reason to shoot the Edwin.
But then, with certain outcomes of guardian animals, you can stick a questing, right? If you don't hit Thresh. I don't know. I just feel like this questing's never doing anything again after guardian animals.
Take all the damage off the board. Check.
Oh, no secret though.
Okay.
But you can't just play every card in hand.
I think you're probably going for that as well. You have to kill the Thresher, obviously.
Questing out of range of just the Dread Raven trading. But Posesi has Lightning Bloom Survival.
Alright, we've got to think carefully here. Is there any other way to go about this. In his list, he has no bog beams, I guess, so you're not finding a way to kill off the Hanar. You just have to accept that they could draw a secret here.
And if they do, then at the very least, you can play overflow. But oh no, completely useless for Kin.
The worst draw in his deck.
And after this overflow, Posesi is home free.
Yep, he was just able to get over the finish line. Pretty simple, straightforward here. We can argue back and forth, I'm sure, forever here about whether or not Kin should have played it out in exactly the way he could. I do think it was the best way to go for it with the 10-10 Edwin. But there was the line of coin Shadow Step the stunner, play it out again, go for the Edwin that way. You only get an 8-8 then, but it would have been a full turn earlier.
Yeah, I mean, really tough to say. I still think I like Kin's line overall.
Yeah.
And honestly, Posesi hardly ever gets the win against that type of neophyte start, except for the fact that he had Overgrowth turn 2 alongside the Lightning, which made the first activation of Cult Neophyte essentially useless for Kin. Just one of the different ways that I suppose Druid combining both the soft and hard ramp can mess with the expected curve.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, it gets even more tricky when you realize that Lightning Bloom, even after Neophyte has come down, does technically give a mana crystal. So you can still get up to those slightly higher totals if you absolutely have to reach a breakpoint. It gets so much tougher because, you know, with the line that Kin made, he was denying, obviously, a useless turn, like you said, with the Bloom into the Overgrowth, but also just the fact that he was doing it on turn 6 with his Edwin line, or 6 mana rather, got really, really complicated. Maybe in an alternate universe he could have got there. This is not that universe, though. Posesi is able to take the win here with the Druid right out of the gate. And, I mean, you and I were just saying, if Kin does want to take the game here, or the series overall, this game feels pretty crucial to do so.
It did. I do think the Druid had good matchups other than the Rogue, but the fact that it even took an unfavorable has to be a huge blow to Kin's confidence in the series overall. Looking at how Kin's Rogue is positioned against the rest of Posesi's decks, according to ladder stats at least, it's not that great against Demon Hunter.
Right.
And in the mirror, I actually also tend to favor the Weapon Rogue because they are just way more aggressive than the Secret Rogue. However, it's worth noting that Posesi's list does not have sap, so potentially that type of Edwin start could be backbreaking still.
Maybe, yeah, obviously no Edwin in the weapon rogue, so it's much more oriented on a little bit of board control and then damage with the weapons to close things out. We're going to take a break here before we find out whether or not Posesi could go the whole distance here and start to ameliorate his pretty miserable score at the start of this season of Grandmasters. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to our third match of the day here in Hearthstone Grandmasters for the Asia Pacific region. If you want any more information about how the ordering of the regions goes, how the format works here in Grandmasters, you can always head over to playhearthstone.com/esports for any information that you need. We've got a fantastic website there with the schedule. The decks is a very important one if you want to start playing some of these archetypes yourself on ladder. Some of them fairly complicated, but I'm sure some of them you'd be having a lot of success with if you wanted to climb on ladder. One such deck that I always see as one that is recommended for players with maybe not such a complete collection is the Weapon Rogue, which we could be seeing from Posesi here. A fairly straightforward deck and a very powerful one at that.
Yes, and I especially like Posesi's inclusion of it, looking at his lineup as a whole, because I think it lends itself very well to a ban away druid type strategy and possibly prey on bomb warrior a little bit. But the matchup we'll be seeing first is exactly that.
And this is, I think, what a lot of people have been saying is the reason to go for the Weapon Rogue in your lineup, because while it does kind of struggle against the aggro decks because you don't really want to be trading all too much, it's very, very potent against the warriors, even so much to the point where Chonsu tweeted out, "Why are my opponents not bringing warrior?" when last week he had obviously the full target on warrior, and this time he's got Weapon Rogue thrown in there as well. He clearly wanted to get the target. He's not going to be getting that, I don't think, but Posesi has got exactly the matchup for one.
I mean, Chonsu, maybe they're not bringing warrior because you've shown you're very willing to full target warrior. Just a thought.
I mean, that's like me saying, why doesn't anyone want to go into electrical with me? Nothing ever goes wrong when you do that. Come on, guys.
Yeah, if I can bring 2 other people, then I'm down. Okay, curve for Posesi is pretty premium for the start. Best stealth minion into early Greyheart Sage, but now that he's picked up the second one, might not necessarily even commit the attack here. However, Kin is running the double Whirlwinds, which tends to be included when you're not running... Sorry, one of Whirlwind, which you tend to at least have one copy if you're not running Risky Skipper.
Exactly, which I think is part of the reasoning why Posesi wanted to attack there. Also just Blade Storm. It does mean, of course, that he can't go for second Greyheart, at least in order to draw on this turn, and instead is developing the 1 health stealth minions here, which I think definitely incentivizes a trade with the Spy Mistress instead of a value trade.
Yeah, both Whirlwind and Bladestorm are too backbreaking if you don't get rid of this 2-3. And pretty funny that this is a weaponless start for Posesi, but it's also very powerful, highly aggressive, and also makes the Wrench Caliber for Kin this turn very awkward if he just wants to go for it. He takes too much damage.
Yeah, using the thing that neither deck wants to do here, which is attack into minions with their weapons. Both decks are really designed to go face with the weapons wherever possible. And I think it just really does spell how things are going here for Kin, which is to say, terribly.
It's worth noting, though, that Posesi's particular build of Weapon Rogue, I would say, is not the most popular one with the double Volpara Blades. He is consciously including these Ferocats, Evil Miscreants, Ferocats in the place of the Worgen Infiltrators. So this type of minion-heavy start is not all that unexpected from this particular list. Generous Mummy, though.
Oh, yeah. Pretty... not what you're looking for here. Even against the non-pirate variant, it's just a little bit too much tempo that they can gain. I do like the tempoing of the cat, however, though, to even get the mummy, just because even though it's a little bit worse against Brawl, you have so many resources here as Posesi. All you care about is getting this damage through to face.
Even drawing the bombs away, which means secret passages have better chance of going off. But wow, he has so many good options.
Snap Chalice every day of the week. It's disgusting.
There's a small consideration for Hook Scimitar with Steel Dancer, but Krasnov! Hello?
Hello?
It's very unlikely to live next turn. It's just so funny. That's a card you actually run in the deck.
I think you probably still make Krasnov the illusion minion here. But, I mean, yeah, it's just kind of funny that you'd get it.
Because if you put the illusion on the 5/5 and there's a single whirlwind effect, it's a full board clear with just the Wrench Caliber swing.
Yeah, very, very smart play, accepting that Krasnov was born to die there and not trying to greed it out too much.
in committing the next weapon swing, just so Fort Villager can be maximized for the next turn.
There's
So
only
there's full
one.
mana expenditure available here if he wants to go Spectral, Hook Scimitar, Cutting Class.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm looking at. Unless you want to, like, Secret Passage is something to consider here if you want to hit specifically Self-Sharpening Sword. I don't think it's worth going for here, considering how powerful of ways you have to spend your mana.
I'd be very surprised to see Miscreant over Weapon here, because he has Steel Dancer for the next trick. Kin's list does have one Ooze, which is worth noting. That might be why he is just sticking to the minion-based approach. I don't know why we're calling this Weapon Rogue. He hasn't equipped a single weapon all game.
Right. Yeah, I also definitely preferred the Hook Scimitar that turn. Double Cutting Class being able to be used next turn felt so powerful to me. Even if they do top deck exactly the Ooze, which did happen here, maybe Posesi's just got future sight.
Okay. Kin has scrapped together a defense. Oh, surely the Hook Scimitar goes down now, right? It's 3 cutting classes. Prep.
Oh, that's Cold Blood, right? Surely.
Oh, true. The mana all works out.
Yeah.
Because you can still fit in the Hook Scimitar, Deadly Poison, and the cutting classes.
Oh, yeah. Now
it's too clean. Buff the Lackey.
I kind of want to double trade in the Lackey and the 3-1, right? And then buff the
max
Miscreant.
Damage.
I think, yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah. Ooh, that maybe changes things, though.
Does it? Well, you can fit in more damage to face, obviously, by doing this.
Yeah.
Trade Miscreant 1-1. Yeah, I guess Posesi's not concerned about the fragility of his board by this point.
Yeah. Clearly he is. Wow, trading. Okay.
This is the non-skipper list. I mean, you're not punished by armor smithing. That's not there for leaving up minions.
Yeah, I agree. I think with double Secret Passage as well, you are just so all in on the damage plan. Like, we can argue about the fact that this denies the 1 extra damage, which would put him down to a double bomb breakpoint. Like, there is the fear of dying on the backswing. He's not purely the aggro here.
That's fair. Oh, but Kin just wants to play everything, but doesn't have mana for it.
So does Posesi.
Because Posesi's too aggressive, Kin goes for the least mana efficient route. Tries to win the ball. First result, GG.
Yeah, it wouldn't really have made a difference either way, I think, as we can see from the hand. But Kin does end up sadly losing here, going down 0-2. Things may be starting to turn around here for Posesi in this late stage of the season in Grandmasters, because I think we clearly saw after he got his second loss and went down to 0-2 in the round robin, he couldn't even stay at his computer. He literally had to get up and walk away because of how miserable he was feeling. You could just tell he thought, this is it. I'm already relegated out of Grandmasters. But then a strong win last week, looking like a strong win this week unless things massively turn around. 2-2 is fine. He could still be looking at playoffs here.
Right. I like how you brought up Posesi's mannerisms on camera, because I'm just such a Posesi fan. He's just such a... He's so real, you know? If you look at his Twitter, you know how these big celebrities have sometimes their public-facing Twitter and their alt-Twitter, where they just air out their actual feelings that maybe not everyone wants to read? That's all one and the same for Posesi. He tweets about the most random things, and he's not afraid to air out when he's feeling frustrated or when it feels like his work is not, you know, the effort he puts in is not paying off. And I can relate to that. So I would like to see for his work to actually pay off this time, even though I'm also a Kin fan.
Yes, I am also a Kin fan, but with regards to Posesi's Twitter, I will say as well, I don't know if it's Google Translate being a fickle translator, but his tweets are absolutely unintelligible. I'm going to go with the theory that Google Translate doesn't quite work well with Japanese because of the, you know, divide with phonetic spelling of a lot of words. But man, is those some cryptic tweets he's throwing out when he loses games of Hearthstone.
And Derek, I have to recommend that you upgrade your translating software. It's really not working out for you right here.
Ha ha ha. Yes, I will do that. But Posesi now with just the Demon Hunter remaining. Obviously, we're looking at the mirror, which is a mirror. the Bomb Warrior, which is the non-pirate version again for Kin. So I think it's a close one. I'm still not quite sure who I'd put in the lead massively there. I definitely think I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board and play out a little bit of that matchup. And then the Rogue, which does feel ever so slightly favored for the bomb for the Demon Hunter.
Yeah, spicy flavored for this matchup. In particular, I think that Posesi, obviously with 3 shots, is in an overwhelmingly favored position to win the series. I will say that even though I would prefer to have the skipper version against Demon Hunter, I still think Bomb is ever so slightly in the lead. And,
well,
it turns out though Posesi's opening curve is pretty nice.
Yeah, and the constant debate of Tempo Panthara becomes a lot more enticing here, because generally we've seen players err on the side of saving it for a draw on turn 3. But when it unlocks the Spectral Sight, which is a very unique inclusion in the deck for Posesi, I think I like it. Just throw it down and get the draw next turn.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously the dream is if those 2 cards were switched in position, but
yes.
I think especially with the Skull draw from Posesi, he has no shortage of resources in the future. It's better to get the minions on board, start pressuring the warrior as soon as possible, and he has a Lapidary, Glaive Bound, and Kayn. It's just a curve.
It's a straight up curve, and it's a powerful curve at that. Like 4 Kayn, 5 Lapidary, 6 Glaive Bound as well. It's going to have to be, I think, not just an aggressive game from Kin, because even with... Oh, I don't know. I was going to say he can't win the aggro game plan, but Wrench Caliber into Blastmaster Boom, maybe Kin's the aggressor here, and Posesi's being baited.
Yeah, everything is very spicy here. I'm leaning towards going Wrench Caliber into Bladestorm upgrade for the next turn, but Kin is starting to respect the damage here, which I can also get behind, but against exactly Kayn, it feels bad. Well, then again, he can still coin the upgrade here. Fine. It hurts to give up the turn 6 boom game plan, is the only caveat.
Oh, it's so close. I really want to play Coin Boom. I really, really want to throw that down on turn 6.
It's so tough to say. I think Kin is making the right decision because he'll end up taking far too much damage before the Coin Boom. Because Coin Boom, you can't even immediately activate the boom bot on that turn. So if there's any amount of damage left on board, you could just be dying.
I'm sold. I'm sold. He just had no way to kill off the Kayn without attacking him with his face.
Doesn't have a shield slam for this. Okay, that's a clear.
Trade into it and miss the hero power. It's like, it's the best outcome, but it does not feel good.
It doesn't. But, I mean, he just has to remove any additional damage that Posesi can gain. Kin is relying on his deck to eventually give him the armor, just make sure that Posesi cannot get any more than 1 attack base with his minions.
So clearly Posesi has a very tempting play of Shard Shatter to clear the board, set up Skull, get damage face. Was there ever a consideration for just Glaive Bound on that turn and say it's you know, you don't necessarily have a clear without attacking him with your weapon?
That's fair, because then the next turn could be Militia instead of Skull, potentially. I think this overall leaves Posesi with the most options, though.
Yeah. Again, players this game have been making the sensible plays, whereas I've just been the kind of devil on their shoulder trying to get them to make the fun, stupid plays.
Worth noting that after the Shard Shatter was played, Militia doesn't even have fragments left, I believe, after the Lapidary.
Ah, right, sorry.
So the Militia game plan without Shard Shatter would have just been for 1-3-3, which is probably not worth it. This, however, screams Skull to me.
I do think I agree. Just looking at the possibility of going into turn 7, this is the most rigid turn from Kin. Turn 7 definitely wants to be Blastmaster Boom, which if he does, he just loses the game.
That's true. Oh, this pickup though.
That is big.
Oh man, now this makes Posesi's turn super awkward. Like, either he had to choose last turn or this turn as a dead turn. I was just thinking Skull overall probably gives you better mana expenditure. So we'll see.
You got to think about the breakpoints as well. Like, I know it's not necessarily likely to happen, but Lapidary goes down to 2 mana here, which is playable. Whoa! What?
Whoa! Wait!
What?
Hello? There's only 1 bomb left in the deck now. And that's good for Kin. He's just threatening lethal now.
So he has, what, a 5 attack? So it's 1 damage off lethal. Posesi does not technically have to heal here. And I feel like that might be the line. Do you just put them on having that 1 extra point of damage?
I mean, if you're not healing, you're going Skull, which means you can possibly draw the bomb still. What if it's just the 1-makers with the Eldrazi? Because if you hit a Twin Slice, you can heal and damage them, right?
Oh, that's true. That's
true. I don't know. But Twin Slice is just a 1 in 6.
Oh,
he does the skull. It's so scary.
Oh, Soul Shard, but nothing in the deck, and he gets the bomb!
Because he had the other 4 blades, but he wouldn't even be able to cheapen it because he drew the bomb. Posesi is just dead. No soul fragments left in the deck. What was this game? That was 4 bombs off the top, and the 5th one not far behind.
He lost 20 health that turn. That was so unlucky for Posesi. That was so brutally unlucky. This game, I think, should have just been a win.
I think so too. Since he hardly had armor gain left by that point.
Yeah. I mean, without that, it was very possibly Kin in the position of going like Doctor Boom and then Shield Slam one of your Boom bots just to get 1 chance to try and win the game on the spot. It's the Posesi that we've been seeing this season. Like I've said, he's had some bad outcomes. It hasn't been going his way, but he's still 2-1 up. That was arguably the bad matchup for him up against the Bomb Warrior with just the Mirror and the Rogue left over. So it's definitely not over yet for Posesi. Japanese fans might still get a win today.
Indeed. The other note I want to make from both of these lineups is that there's no mage to be seen, which is honestly kind of a surprise because I'm just such a fan of mage overall. I think it has great matchups across the board, and because the deck is so flexible, it can win even unfavorables here and there, but it could just be a sign of respect for the rising popularity of Demon Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of building a lineup as a whole, it looks like mage doesn't really have a good spot anyway. Yeah, I think that it starts to make sense, and even though I'm such a mage fan, I like this 4-deck idea from Posesi more than any lineup I've seen, I think, this week.
Right. It gets more and more complicated, doesn't it? Because then you have to factor in, if you're going for this game plan of ban Druid and try and sneak a win with the Demon Hunter, maybe the deck that you throw in should be like, instead of Druid, you go with Aggro Hunter, maybe, to try and go for a harder target on the Warriors who aren't prepared for it, get a good shot against the Mages as well. If they do come down with Hunter, Weapon Rogue, Demon Hunter, you can get a pretty strong target there. It's very, very interesting. And I like your point earlier that this does feel like players really starting to get their claws into Conquest a little bit more and start exploring the options.
As we move into the next matchup, Posesi is on the coin, so already that is like mitigated fears for a giant Edwin down too early.
Yeah.
Posesi's list is not naturally running Consume Magic, so that's even more backbreaking if it were to come down early.
Yeah, Posesi is still the outlier here between Glory, Alutemu, and himself in terms of not going for the Penflinger variant on the Demon Hunter, instead going with double Spectral Sight, which I think pretty much unanimously is just ignored as a card at the moment in Hearthstone in most of the lists, because you kind of want to just get damage options. You want to get tempo options onto the board rather than drawing cards.
Yeah, the 1-makers and Mana Feeder Panthera kind of function as pseudo card draw while developing a minion on your 2-cost slot. But I have seen these Spectral Sight lists floating around here and there, so it's not to say that it's completely off the wall. Interested in Plagiarize because this could be going into the coin turn from Posesi. But Kin is just gonna stick to his curve.
Yeah, I think I can respect holding off for 1 more turn on the Plagiarize, because coin 4 doesn't often happen, right? It's not an especially good Marrow Slicer here. It's not an especially good Kane either, although I suppose that's a little bit more reasonable. I think going into turn 5 is a little bit more likely to work out for you, so I really like this timing from Kin.
It's just a bit awkward, the anti-synergy that Plagiarize and Cult Neophyte have, because you kind of want them to play more cards going into your Plagiarize turn. I wonder if this was ever like Plagiarize Dagger instead of Neophyte.
I think I like tempoing out here because, yes, you get a slightly worse Plagiarize here, but I think you're more afraid of just losing on board and taking a bunch of damage. Like, if they go Coin into Lapidary here, for example, you tank 5 and there's a 5/5 on board that you can't clear.
That's true. Lapidary is much less useful for the rogue side, and for Kin, I think it was just game plan A to make sure he has the board so he can land the Wasteland Assassin cleanly on the next turn.
A place to hide.
Yep. Biggest minion. Correct.
No Shard Shatter for Posesi, but top deck skull.
Easy peasy.
Alas, poor warlock.
I'm looking at this board and I find it funny how Shard Shatter Mystic would interact because Reborn goes off before Death Rattle, so you actually do get the benefit of the Grandma Mirror.
Oh yeah, true.
Okay, which secret? Plagiarize again. You did just see Skull, so likely to get many cards off of that this turn.
Yeah, that's generally the good timing. I wouldn't be too surprised to see both, although I guess pickup of AI does mean you're more likely to draw through to your Secret Passage, Questing, Edwin, those kind of good cards.
Ooh, now we're looking at Questing Blackjack and Shadow Step, so Posesi's development has to be very impressive here, and it is! Militia! 5 3/3s.
Yep, it's absolutely insane. It's the perfect kind of card to play into Plagiarize, where it's good for you, but bad for your opponent.
And already, for Posesi, I want to see a Twin Slice expended phase here. I think you can put together the lethal, and you just want to have more mana to work with for the Glaive-bound turn.
I see your point. I think maybe you don't care about it off of Plagiarize, but I think the difference is so negligible. Like, you're going to be able to put forward so much damage in the next turns that I like just not even giving them the chance of extra damage.
Okay, I'm hesitant to say whether it's negligible, but you'd have to give me tons of time to figure out how much damage you're sticking on board on average and whether you're likely to push lethal. But I think a lot of the time, Militia is just a lethal setup against Rogue. Point where Posesi is not even seeing a Questing get played this turn because Kin has to respect the board so much.
Wait.
And
This was a weird turn for Kin, right? Like, this could have been a Questing turn. He played the Soul Shear and traded into the Militia instead of going Questing Secret Stunner, Stunner, Step, Stunner.
it's true. I mean, you probably didn't want to stun a Militia, but it wasn't playable this turn.
Well, I was just saying leave the Militia up. And he could have gone with double step the Souls and then step Militia to kill it at the end. Like, he still had the kill on it. This does set up for Militia next turn, I suppose, because you have the Soul Fragments in your deck would be the reasoning. But I don't know. I wanted a big Questing on board that turn.
It definitely felt like what he is doing never wins, it just delays. So if there's a way to get down Questing and still get rid of most of the damage, then I agree.
I don't think that line necessarily was winning, to be fair. I think either way he's probably just going to lose the game. But it was something at least.
Glaive-bound hits the board for Posesi.
This can be an absolutely gargantuan Questing on this turn. But I'm still hesitant to say that it's enough to win the game.
I mean, Hanar, maybe some miracles.
Maybe.
But he has to Hanar and then go for the passage? Because I'm thinking he needs Ice Barrier or Misdirection at this point.
Oh, okay.
Just gonna go for Edwin and pray that the damage is not there in hand, but there is Giga Lethal in hand for Posesi.
Yep. Omega dead is, I believe, the expression for Kin here. Even with such a dominant push onto the board, lethal easily going to be gained on the following turn should this not be cleared up. Posesi with the 2 twin slices that have been in this hand for the entire game can clean things up and get up to 2-2. And what a relief for Posesi, starting the round robin at 0-2, winning his next 2 games to go up to 2-2. He's really breaking away from the pack now. We have Alutemu, Rivius, and Kin all down at 1-3. He can start to put to rest any chance of being in the bottom 2 if he picks up one more win.
Oh, Posesi just can't sit still. It's so funny.
Give us the chair, Cam.
I don't know if this is nervous energy or just... I have to imagine it's just too much stress that he cannot sit still anymore, but you can see it's a huge relief for Posesi, scary for Kin especially. These are 2 players that were new GMs just last season, and already it's getting close to possibly saying goodbye to one of them.
Oh, it would break my heart. I can't imagine GM without any of them. Even Kin is just a relative newcomer to the scene. I just think he brings something so unique. The metagame hasn't really been working